Hey everyone, welcome to the show. It's funny how the things that make us feel kind of vulnerable, like our imperfections, our struggles, those are often the same thing that can make us stronger.
It's true. Kind of a paradox, right? It's like the cracks are where the light gets in or something like that.
Exactly. And that's exactly the kind of stuff we're diving into today. We're going to be exploring this awesome book, The Comfort Book by Matt Haig.
Oh, I love that book. It's like a collection of these really insightful reflections and meditations on just like life.
Yeah, and it covers so much ground. It's about finding strength in those vulnerable moments, accepting yourself, flaws and all, and even like the ways we're all connected.
Totally. It's definitely one of those books you can pick up and just open to any page and find something that speaks to you.
For sure. And for anyone who wants to check it out, we've got the Amazon link down in the description. But today we're going to share some of our favorite, most thought-provoking bits from the Comfort Book that we think you guys will really connect with.
Sounds good.
So one of the things that really struck me was this idea of inherent worth. There's this chapter called Baby, and it talks about how, like, when a baby's born, we automatically see them as precious and valuable.
Right. Like we don't expect them to prove their worth or anything. They just have it intrinsically.
Exactly. But then, somewhere along the way, we start getting all these messages that we have to earn our worth, achieve things, be successful.
It's like we forget that we were born worthy.
Totally. And that's why I love the chapter called You Are the Goal. It basically reminds us that self-love isn't something we have to achieve. It's already there.
Like you are the destination, not the journey. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's so important, especially when life gets tough, because it throws stuff at you. And this book, it's got some really helpful ways to deal with those difficult times.
Oh, totally. Like that story about his dad.
Yeah, and I think my dad said once when we were lost in a forest.
Yeah, and he was lost as a kid with his dad in France, and his dad just kept saying, "If we keep going straight, we'll get out of here." It's so simple, but so profound.
I love that. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just keep moving forward. Even if you don't know where you're going, just keep going.
It's about trusting the process, even when it feels messy or uncertain.
And that leads right into the chapter called It's Okay, which is just this amazing permission slip to not be perfect, to have stars, to be a work in progress.
Yes, it's like a big sigh of relief because we live in this world where we're constantly being told to optimize and hustle and be our best selves all the time.
And it's exhausting. So It's Okay is like a big hug. It's saying, hey, you're allowed to just be.
Exactly. It reminds me of that quote, lighthouses don't go running around an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining.
Oh, that's a good one. And speaking of perspective, the book talks about the Stoic idea of power.
Oh, yeah, the one where it's basically saying if we're upset by something external, it's not the thing itself that's bothering us. It's our judgment about it,
Right. And we have the power to change our judgment.
which is huge because it means even when we can't control what's happening around us, we can control how we respond internally.
Totally. It's all about our perception, right? And that ties into the chapter, Nothing Either Good or Bad. It's a reference to Hamlet.
Oh, yeah, it's saying that events are essentially neutral until we assign meaning to them, positive or negative.
It's kind of a mind-blowing concept. Like, we have so much more power than we realize to shape our own experience.
For sure. And the cool thing is our minds aren't stat. They can change.
Right. Change is real is all about how time is a constant force of change. And our brains are neuroplastic, meaning they can rewire themselves.
So even when we feel stuck, we're actually always evolving.
And that gives us hope, especially during those tough times, because it reminds us that nothing lasts forever.
I love the image in rock, too, that when we hit rock bottom, we actually discover this unbreakable part of ourselves.
Like this inner resilience we didn't even know we had.
Totally. It's like our strength is forged in the fire.
Now, moving on, the book also talks a lot about perspective and acceptance.
Oh, yeah, like in the subject in the sentence, it's saying that we're not our feelings. We're more like the container that holds those feelings.
That's a really helpful distinction because it creates some space between who we are and what we're experiencing.
It's like we're the ocean, and our emotions are the waves. They come and go, but the ocean remains.
I like that. And then there's an asymmetric tree is 100% a tree. It's this beautiful metaphor for embracing imperfection.
Oh, yeah. Like just because something isn't perfect or symmetrical doesn't mean it's not whole or beautiful.
And that applies to us too, right? Our flaws are part of what make us unique.
For sure. And we have to remember that our actions don't define us either.
Right, like, and you are more than your worst behavior.
It's so important to separate the deed from the doer, both for ourselves and for how we treat others.
Absolutely. And speaking of self-acceptance, there's this great chapter called Let It Be.
Oh, I love that one. It's basically saying you can't try to be yourself. You already are yourself.
It's about letting go of that pressure to perform or conform.
Yeah, and just allowing yourself to be like that concept of basic
Oh,
nowness.
yeah, accepting yourself and everything as it is in this moment.
It's about being present without judgment.
Totally. And kind of like how to be an ocean. It's about allowing all those tides, the calm and the stormy, just like the ocean does.
It's a good reminder that life has its ups and downs, and that's okay. It's all part of the experience.
And speaking of experiences, the book also explores finding comfort in our connections with others.
Oh, yeah, Connected talks about how we're all interconnected and how even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect.
It's true. Making someone else happy often makes us happy too.
And even when things feel bleak, there's always hope.
Right? Like there is always a path in the forest. It's about recognizing that possibilities exist even when we can't see them yet.
And it's okay to take it one step at a time, just keep moving forward.
And then there are those little reminders to appreciate the everyday joys.
Like pizza.
Yeah, pizza reminds us that the best things in life aren't always material things. It's about the simple pleasures.
And one beautiful thing encourages us to actively look for beauty in our daily lives.
It's those little moments of awe and gratitude that can really shift our perspective.
And even in tough times, there are always these little glimmers of hope.
Like in Elements of Hope, it talks about how even within despair, there can be these moments of beauty and relief.
It's like those tiny sparks of light that keep us going.
And then there's a paradox, which points out that the feeling of not fitting in is actually something that connects us all.
It's so true. It's like that feeling of being alone in our aloneness is a shared human experience.
Okay, now let's talk about the inner work stuff, mindfulness and all that.
Oh yeah, like the way out of your mind is via the world. Sometimes the best way to quiet those anxious thoughts is to engage with the world around us.
Find something that draws our attention outward, a hobby, a passion, anything that gets us out of our own heads.
And then there's negative capability, which is basically about being okay with not knowing everything.
Embracing uncertainty and mystery.
It's like letting go of the need to have all the answers right away.
Exactly. And then there's the classic reminder about the power of our breath.
Oh yeah, a bit about breathing. It's so simple but so grounding.
Just focusing on our breath can bring us back to the present moment.
And honest seeing is all about looking at ourselves and the world fruitfully.
Which can be hard, but it's so important for growth.
And with social media and all that, it's easy to fall into the comparison trap.
That's where Scroll Your Mind comes in. It's about focusing on gratitude instead of comparison.
Appreciating what we have instead of always wanting more.
Okay, let's wrap up with some thoughts on dealing with difficult emotions and uncertainty.
So rain is this beautiful reminder that it's okay to not be positive all the time.
Yeah, sometimes we need to let those negative emotions flow through us.
And Jaws and Nietzsche in Death and Life talks about how confronting our fears can actually diminish them.
It's like they lose their power when we shine a light on them.
And How to Look a Demon in the Eye explores the link between fear and hope.
They both stem from uncertainty.
And Opposites reminds us that darkness and light are interconnected.
You can't have one without the other.
And A Spinning Coin is about how uncertainty can actually be a source of possibility.
Because anything is possible until that coin lands.
And then there's Nothing is Closed, which talks about how life doesn't always have neat endings.
And that's okay. It leaves room for new beginnings.
Ultimately, it's all about choosing our own story, like it says in the most powerful moment in life.
We have the power to decide how we want to narrate our own lives.
That's so empowering.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, but the main takeaways from the Comfort Book are about finding comfort in ourselves, embracing imperfection, and remembering that we're all connected.
For me, the biggest takeaway is the emphasis on self-compassion. It's so important to be kind to ourselves, especially when things are tough.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Comfort Book. We'd love to hear what resonated with you. What was your favorite insight or takeaway from today's discussion?
Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this exploration helpful, please share it with someone who might appreciate it.
And as you go about your day, think about one small way you can practice a little more self-acceptance. What's one thing you can do to acknowledge that inherent worth that you've always had? We'd love to hear your ideas.